Hello and welcome to Shaking and Sipping. This is the show where we shake, stir, or otherwise mix up a cocktail or other classic mixed drink. We give it a sip and we talk a little bit about how it tastes, maybe throw in a little bit of history or a couple of variants. We're continuing to work through the IBA's official list of cocktails in the Unforgettable section, and this week's Unforgettable is the Daiquiri. Now this episode's going to have a little bit less history and discussion than some of our other episodes normally have, because the history just isn't that complicated on this one, and actually the Wikipedia article does a great job of telling pretty much the history of the drink. There wasn't a lot of change in it, not a lot of variation, not a cool story of some obscure bartender that someone found. It's just pretty simple. So Daiquiri is the name of a place in Cuba. There's a beach and some mines and stuff, and that's where the drink gets its name from. There's two possibilities. There's either this one mining engineer who worked there right around the turn of the century, or there was this congressman who bought the mine in, I believe, 1902. One of them made the drink or tried the drink or something, brought it to New York, bounced around a little bit. Some bars had it, picked up a little bit of influence here and there. And then over time, especially in sort of the 40s, a mixture of shortages of vodka and whiskey due to the war, as well as more sort of travel within Latin America, Central America, South America, and trade meant more rum was coming in. Rum became more popular. As that happened, this drink got more popular as well. Now you might expect in an episode about the Daiquiri that I'd be talking about Ernest Hemingway a little bit. It's well known as one of his favorite drinks, and there are at least two variations of the drink which are named after him or credited to him. We're not going to, though, because one of those actually is also an official cocktail, so we will get to that in a future week. So what is a Daiquiri if you've somehow been living under a rock and never heard of it? Well, it's really simple. It is light rum, lime juice, and sweetener, and that's it. And that might make you think that this is very similar to another drink, which they mention in the Wikipedia article as well, that they don't really dive into it much, but that's essentially Navy grog. So, of course, for a couple hundred years, British sailors were given a daily rum ration, and in order to make that more palatable, they were given lime juice, water, and sugar, and then eventually once you could have ice, lime juice, sugar, and ice. That's a daiquiri. Proportions might be slightly different. They certainly wouldn't have had them in a chilled cocktail glass or something, but it's the same general idea. So really this drink's been around since at least the 18th century in some form or another, though it would have been mixed more like a punch in a larger serving and then shared among the men typically rather than mixed up as an individual drink. All right, with that amount of waffling on, let's talk a little bit about the only real important changes to the drink and evolution. The drink was originally built directly over ice and stirred together and then served that way. Over time, the drink has migrated to become a shaken drink that is then served without ice in a cocktail glass. That's the biggest difference. There are variants out there, but most of them are either slight proportion differences in the rum to lime category, or the addition of an additional fruit, strawberry daiquiris and peach daiquiris and all kinds of different stuff. There's really not a lot of excitement to it, not a lot of evolution that's happened. Before we make two versions of the drink, let's start with what's clearly the most important version. So what many people are going to think of first when they think of a daiquiri, unfortunately, is something like this fine product here. This is Daly's Strawberry Daiquiri Frozen Cocktail, which it tells you what it actually is naturally flavored wine product, which just, you've sold me. Contains 1% juice, doesn't actually mention what those juices are. So I don't know if there's both lime flavor and strawberry flavor, or just strawberry or what, but we've done our job here. Freeze, squeeze, and enjoy. So I froze it, I've now squeezed it. Let us enjoy it. I think there's quite a bit in here, so I've got my big oversized, oh god, that is so appetizing. That is the Dailies Frozen Strawberry Daiquiri. It smells weird. I can smell strawberry and then some kind of funk. I don't even know how I guess it's too frozen still. It doesn't taste actively bad. It just doesn't taste of much. It's incredibly sweet, syrupy sweet. There is a little bit of strawberry flavor. It's not nearly as vile as I thought it would be, but it's not good. It's not enjoyable to drink at all. It is so sweet. And it doesn't really taste like strawberries. It tastes like strawberry candy. So it's really sweet strawberry candy that's just turning into syrup in my mouth. I don't know what that's about. Well, you too could have yourself one of these for, I believe, $1.89 at your local Kroger affiliate. Or don't. Alright, so let's go ahead and make one the IBA Specway. So for this, we're going to need our shaker tin. And only a couple ingredients, going to be very simple for us here. We're going to need, they call for a white Cuban rum, and of course that would be correct. Unfortunately, you can't get real Cuban rum in the US. So Bacardi actually originally, of course, was Cuban rum, and then at the time of the revolution, they took off. That's a story. But anyway, it's vaguely similar to some Cuban rums. I'm not saying it's the equivalent, but you can't get actual Havana Club in the US, which is what this drink should have in it. So we won't have it. So what do we need of that? We need 60 milliliters or 2 ounces. And you could use pretty much any light rum that doesn't taste awful. Bacardi certainly isn't the greatest rum in the world, but it doesn't taste bad. It just tastes mild and doesn't have that much character, but perfectly lovely. And it'll work fine here. Then we're gonna need our lime juice, and that is 20 milliliters, so that is 2/3 of an ounce. Not quite. And then finally a sweetener, and this is where I don't agree with this recipe. They have you do it the traditional way and use granulated sugar. There's no reason to do this. If you have simple syrup around, that will work absolutely fine here. There is no reason to waste your time with granulated sugar. But whatever, that is how they call it. So I've got some super fine sugar here. Let me get the remnants of strawberry garbage off my spoon. And we are gonna want 2 bar spoons of super fine syrup. And then before we ice and shake it, we're gonna wanna actually stir that until the sugar is mostly dissolved. Then we'll ice and shake it. In with some ice. Let's shake it. And then we're going to strain that into our coupe. And we don't need a garnish on this one. So this is an IBA spec other than the exact type of rum, daiquiri. So nose is just very lime with just a hint of that sweetness of the rum. There's a little bit of almost a cooked sugar note. Yeah, that's lovely. It's very simple. It's mostly lime juice flavor with just the ever smallest heat that you know that there's alcohol in it. The sugar is just mellowing the lime juice. It hasn't become sweet. Yeah, not much to say. There's not a lot of evolution. It's just lime with a little something extra, but it's delicious. And if it were a hot summer day out, this would be incredibly desirable as a nice, cooling, late afternoon sort of beverage. All right, let's make it one other way. I'll be right back. For our final version, we're going to try building it a little bit more as it would have been in the early 1902 sort of days. And that is all together in a glass on ice. Now, really, this should be crushed ice. I should have gotten out a Lewis bag and a mallet and done that, but it's for one drink and I didn't feel like it. So I just cracked some large ice cubes with a bar spoon. It'll work just fine for us. So for this one, our method is going to change slightly. So what we're gonna want is first our sugar. And again, there's no reason you need to do this with actual sugar. Simple would work so much better for this because we wouldn't have to work as hard to dissolve it. We're gonna put in 2 bar spoons of ultrafine sugar. Then we are gonna top that with the juice of a lime. And then again, somewhere around 60 milliliters of rum, 2 ounces. I've seen as high as 3 ounces as well, but somewhere in that range. I am going to swap that out though. I'm going to try a rum barbancourt. This is, of course, a Haitian rum made purely from sugarcane juice as opposed to sugar or molasses or sort of leftovers from the sugar process as many rums are. It has a little bit different of a flavor. It's not a white rum. It is aged, but it's not one of their older ones. This is just the 4-year. So I think it'll give us a lot more happening without going to an incredibly strong, funky place. So I'm putting, I don't know, 2 1/4 ounces, give or take, of that into here. And then we are just in the glass gonna give that a stir as best we can. And this is where that sugar is just not helping us out because it's going to be very hard to dissolve sugar in this awkward environment over ice. Yeah. All right, and this is sort of an original recipe daiquiri, though made with rum barbancourt as opposed to a Cuban or Cuban style rum. So right away, so much more happening with that rum. This ended up having a slight bit more of the lime juice than the first one did because we used the whole lime, and also a slight bit more rum, but we needed that extra lime here because the rum is actually doing so much more. There are roasted notes to it, there are some vegetal notes to it, but then that lime is just poking through. Again, not too much sugar here. The sugar is just taking the edge off of the lime. It's not sweetening the drink at all. You certainly could make it sweeter and it would be very enjoyable if that's more to your speed. But if you're more of a dry drink person, I think you do need some of that sugar in there or else this would just be too acidic and assaultive. But I think that this actually... yeah, it's just a delicious drink. Is it better to make it over ice like this? No. There's no reason to make it over ice like this. That ice is just going to melt and this drink's going to get weak as we sit here. I don't know why we'd want to do that. The shaken method is better. And for the love of all good things, don't use granulated sugar. There's just no reason to. Get your simple. It will mix so much better. Save yourself a ton of time. All right, now that I'm done complaining about sugar, I'd like to thank you so much for coming along with me as we made a few variants of the daiquiri and tried a strawberry product. If you enjoyed, please like, subscribe, share, all those YouTube type things. You can check out the blog, shakingandsipping.com. That's where we have a write-up of each week's drink, as well as additional articles on things such as generally the day after I post one of these videos, I will post a write-up of having gone to one of my lovely local cocktail bars here in Seattle, ordered the drink and found out if they make it often, if they tweak it, if they have the ingredients, what they sub, etc. So make sure to check the blog there. You can follow me on Twitter at shaking_sipping for updates and other Twittery type things. Thanks so much. Until next week, happy sipping. Cheers.